event. Now you will see the presentation of the new format of international cooperation in investigation of Russian war crimes against Ukraine. I'm invited to the stage members of the dialogue group on accountability for Ukraine. Its Prosecutor General Andriy Kostin, Wopke Hoekstra, Deputy Prime Minister of the Kingdom of Netherlands, Minister of Foreign Affairs, Didier Reynders, European Commissioner for Justice, Karim Khan, Prosecutor of the International Crime Court, Ladislav Hamron, President of Eurojust, and Dmytro Kuleba, Minister of Foreign Affairs of Ukraine. And ladies and gentlemen, please thank to the excellencies of President Volodymyr Zelensky and President Angel Levis, and thanks to all distinguished speakers. Thank you, Mr. President. Dear speakers, I'm kindly remind you about timing. Thank you.
Thank you so much. This is extremely important with regard to very tough schedule of our conference. Distinguished audience, thank you for being here today as a true manifestation of the world's solidarity and unity against atrocities committed by Russia. Freedom is never granted. It has to be won. Justice is never given. It has to be exacted. We have learned it by heart for the past last year as Ukraine has been fighting for its sovereignty, freedom, and peace. But there can be no peace without justice and accountability. We cannot and we shall not simply forget the horrors witnessed in Izium, Bucha, Irpin, Kharkiv, Kherson, Mariupol, as well as in other liberated cities and regions. The dead cannot cry out for justice. It is a duty of the living to do so for them. Therefore, justice as its best is a continuum that secures accountability. Ukraine firmly believes in mobilizing international and national efforts to impose Russia's responsibility as a state, as well as prosecute individual perpetrators in line with the rules of international law. Survivors and victims deserve redress for the suffering and harm caused to them. This can only be done through joint efforts of Ukraine and the international community. Today, we all have a momentum, both legal and moral obligation to counter without leniency and hold Kremlin accountable for its atrocious actions. On numerous occasions, we have voiced our choice and standing. The accountability should be multifaceted, entailing Russia's political and legal responsibility on international level, while ensuring individual liability of those involved in planning, organizing, instigating, committing, and facilitating commission of international crimes. We recognize that Ukraine has a primary obligation to end impunity for the most serious crimes of concern, and we remain committed to these works, to our quest for justice. At the same time, ensuring cooperation and partnership with international and national stakeholders is fundamental for the success. Having said so, let me use this opportunity to welcome the architects of the Dialogue Group for Accountability in Ukraine, Government of Netherlands and European Union. Dialogue Group has been established via commitment from 45 states at the Ukraine Accountability Conference on 14th of July last year. Its aim is to achieve coherence, effectiveness and efficiency across the diverse range of accountability initiatives undertaken against Russia's aggression and ongoing atrocities. As a cooperation platform, the dialogue group will connect and assist justice players in Ukraine and third states, international mechanisms and civil society. Equally, we deeply value efforts of the International Criminal Court, prompt initiation of investigation into the situation in Ukraine by the Office of the Prosecutor through state referrals that effectively contributed to this process. Today, Ukraine's Council of Cabinet of Ministers approved agreement on establishment of the ICC field office in Ukraine. This would further intensify existing cooperation and efforts on the ground. In parallel, there are exceptional efforts undertaken on national level by states individually and jointly in order to investigate and prosecute international crimes committed in Ukraine, including through the Joint Investigative Team created with the assistance of Eurojust. These efforts are explicit commitment of the international community to effectively share Ukraine's investigative and prosecutorial burden in ending impunity for international crimes. Undoubtedly, the starting point in our quest for justice and accountability is the investigation and prosecution of the supreme international crime, the crime of aggression, that by its nature precedes and often leads to war crimes and other mass atrocities. Therefore, Ukraine is calling for establishment of ad hoc special tribunal for the crime of aggression as the most suitable situation, specific, time-efficient and specialized solution for our case. The international dimension of the special tribunal is instrumental for trumping the personal immunity of so-called Troika and securing denial of safe haven to the engineers of this crime. European Union, Council of Europe and singular states, through their support, have made the prospects of the ad hoc special tribunal real. As a first step in the right direction, Ukraine and European Union officially announced setting up of the International Center for the Prosecution of the Crime of Aggression in The Hague. We hope that international community will continue to remain relentless in its efforts to hold Russia's leadership accountable for supporting ad hoc special tribunal and the ICPA. Distinguished audience, dear friends of Ukraine, united, we can overcome the aggressor, as arc of the moral universe is long, but it bends towards justice. Every quest has an ending. For us, there is no alternative but the victory, whereas justice is served through the united web of accountability. My dear friends, I would like to pass the word to Deputy Prime Minister of the Kingdom of Netherlands, Minister of Foreign Affairs Wopke Hoekstra, to proceed our first official meeting of the dialogue group.
Thank you very much, Prosecutor General, and I think the instruction was to be brief, so I'll try to do so and also try not to hit this microphone as hard as I did with the previous one. Fantastic to be here on the stage, and of tremendous importance that we continue this quest, and as you already said, also make sure that we continue to broaden the support for the Aggression Tribunal, with as a first step the International Center for the Prosecution and the Registers Center in the Claim Register in The Hague. I would like to make 3 brief points before I move on to the others. First is, let's make sure that Ukraine continues to be in the driver's seat. And therefore, I think it is tremendously important that you stay involved, that my dear friend Dimitri Kuleba stays involved, and we really make sure that you continue to be the focal point. Secondly, let's make sure that we involve others and we step up and make sure we have the absolute legitimacy, the clout and the resources, and we really do this together. And that is also the reason why we are all here together on the stage with Prosecutor Khan, Didier Reinders, and your just President Hamran here today, because we have to make sure that with this tremendous talk, we can actually get the work done, and we need each and every one of each of these institutions for the next, not just weeks and months, but years and years and years to come. So that will be my second point. And third, let's make sure we enlarge the circle of countries and institutions involved. It is fantastic that we now have one country, Guatemala from Latin America, joining us. But let's be fair. If you look at the map of the world, we still need many, many, many more friends from Latin America, from Africa, from the Middle East, and from Asia joining us, because it will improve and increase our efforts. We need them. This is a cause not just for us, but for the world at large. Everyone is saddened, worried, and I hope fully motivated because of all the terror Russia is doing. So let's make sure we involve them. Thank you.
With great pleasure, I pass the word to European Commissioner of Justice and my close friend and good friend of Ukraine, Didier Reinders.
Thank you, Andrei. Mr. President Levits, Madam, Your Excellencies, dear friends. It has now been more than a year that Russia unleashed its brutal war of aggression against Ukraine. Until this very day, Europe continues to witness the bravery of Ukraine's citizens. Your courage deserves a European response that is up to the task. Since the very beginning of this war, the European Union has been on your side. Let me assure you that the European Commission is ready to provide the support you need moving forward. In this respect, we will leave no stone unturned in our quest to end impunity for the international crimes committed by Russia here in Ukraine. And, dear Andrei, we are with you for as long as it takes. As our joint work continues to tackle the complex legal questions that underpin our collective efforts, we must work in a logical order, and we have tried with the dialogue to do that and to explain it. First, evidence. I want to congratulate Eurojust President Hamran and his team for launching the new core international crimes evidence database last week. Once this database will be operational, it can be used for storing evidence of crime of aggression. In addition, we are moving forward with the establishment of an international center for the prosecution of the crime of aggression against Ukraine, the ICPA, which enjoys the full support of all our member states in the European Union. This center will be attached to the existing joint investigation team at Eurojust. It will ensure that investigations supported through DIGIT are conducted in coherent and cooperative manner. And we have seen now that it's possible also to do that with a close cooperation with the Department of Justice of the USA. And thank you very much, Merrick, for such a kind of close cooperation. In this respect, let me also highlight the role of the International Criminal Court and the prosecutor Karim Khan, which participates in the team and will be able to provide strategic guidance on how evidence can best be collected and used by prosecutors. The modalities of the center's functioning in practice now need to be agreed on, and the members of the Joint Investigation Team will now formally establish the ICPA by amending the agreement. And progress is made in this respect, and we foresee the center to be fully operational by this summer with more additional Ukrainian prosecutors. Together with the Commission's experts, we remain at our counterparts' disposal to help put in place the necessary arrangement. Moving into prosecutions, the European Commission presented in November last year a series of options to ensure accountability. These options are currently being discussed in more detail. Regarding the crime of aggression, there is a common understanding among EU member states that this crime must not go unpunished. Discussions will therefore continue amongst the members of the core group next month, with 24 EU member states plus Australia, Canada, Liechtenstein, Japan, the UK, and of course the US. Simultaneously, I want to emphasize my full support to the possibility of extending the ICC's jurisdiction over the crime of aggression in the future. Such a development could only be a positive contribution to the international rule-based order in which the ICC must remain the key jurisdiction to address core international crimes. And let me briefly also touch upon the question of reparations, as making Russia pay for the damage it has caused is also a form of ensuring accountability. In this regard, we support the establishment of an international claims register to record evidence from citizens of damage, loss and injury as a result of Russia's war of aggression. With regard to the payment of the damage claimed, as well as the broader reconstruction costs, we are ready to support discussions at the international level. Internally, we are actively reflecting how we could make use of frozen Russian assets to this purpose. For me, it is evident that we need to be ambitious and creative, but also our legal solutions must respect the laws that we defend. But we have blocked and immobilized a lot of assets, and we need to continue to work on the possibility to use those assets for the reconstruction and reparation of damage. It is evident that when it comes to the aforementioned needs, international cooperation is key. And the dialogue group, which is being launched today, will be the adequate forum to coordinate our efforts. It will be an honor for the Commission to co-chair the biannual plenary meetings to take stock of the group's progress. And I'm sure that we'll continue to work in such a direction with all our colleagues in the group. And it's true that we need to convince more and more countries on the 5 continents to join us, and certainly in South America, Africa and Asia. And together with the external European External Action Service, we will work in such a direction. We will co-share the work of the group to coordinate and strengthen assistance to the Prosecutor General Office, but we need also to work to convince other partners to join us. And by having regular meetings in the context of the new dialogue group, we will continue to respond more efficiently to the needs of the Prosecutor General's Office, be it with technical assistance, such as for a new electronic case management system, for capacity building, or with equipment. And let me conclude by stating that the steps I outlined in my speech cannot be the end of our collective efforts. I hope that the discussions that will take place during this conference will provide us with new and creative approaches to move forward on ensuring accountability for the horrendous crimes committed by Russia. I must confess that we need to continue to work on 2 goals. Russia must pay for the reparation and compensation of damage, and all the perpetrators of crimes, also the crimes of aggressions, must be brought to justice. Thank you.
Thank you, Didier. And now it's my privilege and honor to pass the word to Prosecutor of the International Criminal Court, Karim Khan, who is working together with his team, shoulder to shoulder, in Kiev, in other cities of Ukraine, in The Hague, in order to make Russia accountable, including highest political and military leadership for war crimes, crimes against humanity, and crime of genocide. Please, Karim.
Thank you, Andre, for that. Mr. President, Attorney Generals, Foreign Minister Kaliba, friends, it's really an astonishing occasion. This is really a remarkable day. That as we all see on our television screens, and those that have been in Ukraine can testify, as heavy artillery continue their cruel debate, as bombs wreak havoc, bullets extinguish lives, we are here in Lviv to discuss something that must unify us. And of course, the prosecutor of the ICC does not, whatever affection and regard I may have for my dear friends in Ukraine, has no special affinity to any particular country. We're not a party to any hostilities. We have affinity to legality. We have affinity and a commitment to the rule of law, and a steady realization that we are, by any measure, at a very precarious moment. And therefore, I think it would be very churlish to deny the fact that this event is not hosted by Ukraine to get weapons. It is not hosted by Ukraine to gain financial assistance. It is hosted by Ukraine to plant ever more firmly the flag of justice on the fertile soil of this land. And the First Lady stated just a few weeks ago to an event in New York that human rights, like the air, do not have borders. And this flag of justice is not owned by any state. It must be seen to be what it is, which is the lost property of humanity. It must find root. It must find form in every system, every legal system, every tradition, every political philosophy, religious creed, because it is the gel that binds us together as a civilization. So this event, United for Justice, really says it all. And I've had the bitter privilege over the last year of getting to know ever better this country. I've been with the Prosecutor General and his brave men and women to Bucha, to Borodyanka, to Kherson, to Kharkiv. The men and women of my office have been to so many locations, and I recall what I said outside St. Andrew's Church in April, that unfortunately Ukraine is a crime scene. And we are seeing so many reports of so many types of violation: prisoners of war tortured, sexual and gender-based crime allegations of targeting that we've seen, destruction of maternity wards in Mariupol or theaters, power grids. And just yesterday, I was very close to the front line in the east. And I went to an orphanage, a care home. And of course, one reads accounts and one hears testimony and one looks at the evidence. But in the silence of that moment, with empty cribs to my right and to my left, with little shoes belonging to children on shelves and clothes donated by people who wanted these children to have a better future, I was struck by the paintings on the wall that we would find in any school, in any country of the world, or in the bedrooms of our own young children. Photographs of Christmas past, nativity scenes where children were dressing up and trying to look forward to that celebration. And instead of that joyful presence, there is silence because of the allegations that we've received that children have been deported outside Ukraine into the territory of the Russian Federation. Now, our yardstick is evidence. It is to look at and investigate affirmatively, incriminating and exculpatory evidence equally. But we have this commitment, that we have the stamina and the determination to make sure that the truth is properly presented. And I heard, in fact, only when I was here in Ukraine, a wonderful saying. I did try to pronounce it, but I don't want to completely garble it. But it's a wonderful Ukrainian saying. And I think it should be a saying for humanity, that the truth doesn't drown in water and it does not burn in fire. As the rising tide of criminal allegations come to the office that I lead and to the Joint Investigative Team, to national authorities, as fires are visible in so many parts of Ukraine, we have to make sure that we stand together, united by this concept of justice. And it's really important at this moment, I think, when we are on the precipice, that the law needs to be seen, to be potent, to have impact, to not simply raise pious, very important, laudable normative values, but it must be seen as one of the anchors for stability and security. And as the President said, and as the Deputy Prime Minister of the Netherlands also recalled, that as we walk the streets here in Lviv, we should hear the whispers of the past, because it is a curious part of history that two giants of international criminal law, Raphael Lemkin and Hersch Lauterpacht, walked these streets, attended this university in this city that we speak about justice today. And Hersch Lauterpacht was also one of the drafters of the speeches, the opening speeches of the great British prosecutor at Nuremberg, Sir Hartley Shawcross. And it's important to recall what Sir Hartley stated in Nuremberg. And I quote, that in no other sphere is it more necessary to affirm the rights and duties of men, and that unless they bind individuals, they bind no one. That wasn't simply the prosecutor's eloquent words. Those words were embraced by the judges of the major powers in Nuremberg. And every undergraduate, every student of this area of law knows very well the Nuremberg judgment, which states that the crimes against international law are committed by men, not abstract entities. And only by punishing individuals who commit such crimes can the provisions of international law be enforced. So words are eloquent, but what's the action? I think there is cause for hope that in the last 1 year, from a standing start, we're in a position where 1/3 of all state parties referred the matter of Ukraine to the International Criminal Court. Unheard of dispatch, unheard of unity. In the last period, I'm really grateful to the leadership of the Kingdom of the Netherlands and the personal leadership of the Foreign Minister of the Netherlands. The rotational forensic model of the Royal Netherlands Marechaussee has been adopted, working very closely with the Office of the Prosecutor General under the flag of the International Criminal Court to make sure that we get the best evidence as quickly as possible, realizing that all evidence must be subjected to independent scrutiny. We've worked in novel ways with Eurojust, my dear friend Ladislav Hamran, with the Genocide Network, and realized that civil society organizations very often are first responders. They're in very difficult and very dangerous places in Ukraine as we speak, and that we have produced together guidelines for civil society organizations to make sure we collect and they can collect evidence, realizing that it can have the maximum utility for the judges that will look at cases in due course. And the not only the joint investigative team, but I think the cooperation of the Prosecutor General is really fabulous. And I do want publicly, Andre, if I may, to thank you, your team, for the excellent cooperation you've extended to me, but also the members of my team that have been here. And we've been here continuously with a continuous field presence since May. 2 more steps, of course, have been made today. I don't need to belabor them. It was really a wonderful initiative, and I'm very grateful to the Foreign Minister, to the Prosecutor General, and to many others that today in Cabinet the authorization has been given by Ukraine to the International Criminal Court to establish a field office. And I also want to thank publicly Deputy Minister Mudra, Prime Minister Smigel, and also, once again, Foreign Minister, for your help and your support. And the Dialogue Advisory Group that's being launched right now really has been very carefully considered. And again, I'm very grateful to the Foreign Minister of the Netherlands, to Didier Reynders, for the wonderful support that you've given this initiative, and to my office. Really, in very effective, in very prompt times, you've actually come up and stood in line of those that are supporting justice. And this was discussed in July last year, when the European Commission, the Dutch Foreign Minister, and my office co-hosted an event in The Hague, that we have to learn the lessons of the past. We can't over-document. We need to make sure that evidence is collected in a way that we are aware of what other independent mandate holders are doing. So I think a lot of momentum, a lot of hope, and it's good to be here in this special place in what is going to be and what is already a momentous year. It's the 75th anniversary of the establishment of a Charter for Mankind, Eleanor Roosevelt called it, the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. 77 years ago, on the 8th of August, 1945, the London Agreement formed the legal basis for what was to become the Nuremberg trials. And here, on the 3rd of the 3rd, 23, in the 25th anniversary of the signing of the Rome Statute, we have an opportunity to stand firm together to deliver a promise that the ICC, as a child of Nuremberg, can finally stand up and play its part to ensure more effective justice for the people of today, and even more importantly, the children of tomorrow. Thank you so much.
Thank you, dear Karim, and thank you for recalling the important dates and compare with what we are doing now all together. And now my privilege to invite the President of Eurojust, Ladislav Hamran, who is not only will be hosting now the International Center for the Prosecution of the Crime of Aggression, not only operating this unique instrument, Core International Crimes Exchange Database, but also is helping us to coordinate all national investigations with regard to the war crimes committed in Ukraine, which are opened by more than 20 countries. Ladislav, the best friend of Ukraine, the floor is yours.
Thank you so much. I feel really touched by your words, but let me remind you, Andre, that everything what we do together. We are united for justice. Dear Excellencies, dear ladies and gentlemen, dear colleagues, first, I would like to congratulate to our Ukrainian partners for organizing this event. And over the past year, I think that your determination and your resilience have made a lasting impression on all of us. And this conference is another sign of your ability to get things done under the most difficult circumstances. And it's really an honor to be today.
And I have to also thank you, Andrei, and to your team for the collaboration. And particularly to you, I want to say that I admire your honesty, integrity, your professionalism and determination. And I would like to also highlight, and thanks to our partners from the Joint Investigation Team, prosecutors generals from countries investigating core international crimes, who are there with me for their partnership, for their friendship, and all the common efforts. Ladies and gentlemen, this war has triggered an unprecedented response by international community, with so many stakeholders involved in a wide range of political, operational, and strategic initiatives. What is really crucial is actually two things. It's a communication and coordination. And this is precisely what the Dialogue Group is about. Throughout these efforts, we want to help our Ukrainian colleagues, and exactly helping you is our guiding principle. We will share with our Ukrainian partners a work stream on national investigations and why this is important. Today, we are aware of 21 national investigations across the globe, out of which 14 are actually run by EU member states. You will all agree that documenting core international crimes is very different than documenting other crimes. The difference is in scope, complexity, duration, and there are many, many other challenges. We would like to discuss all these challenges with our partners because already now we see that certain problems experienced by judicial authorities or law enforcement authorities are common for everyone. We will build the work stream on 4 already existing operational coordination mechanisms at Eurojust. First of all, experience by countries working in joint investigation team. Then experience from coordination meetings between all countries who are investigating crimes in Ukraine. We at Eurojust, we are supporting today 17 cases only related to Ukraine. We will also distill our experience from core international crime evidence database into practical discussion in the work stream. And we will also discuss the challenges from the upcoming International Center for the Prosecution of the Crime of Aggression. Our experience with these coordination mechanisms allows us to carefully map those most pressing issues. This can range from the identification and hearing of victims to the cross-border exchange of evidence, admissibility of evidence, or witness protection schemes, or issues encountered with working with civil societies and NGOs. We may suggest certain actions to our policymakers and political leadership because I cannot exclude that some issues may require a revision of existing policies, new legislation, or new conventions. Ladies and gentlemen, you will definitely agree with me that talking is good, but real action is even better. And this has been the leading principle from the beginning for Eurojust. And I would like to also make a public promise that has been and will be our leading principle to make sure that our Ukrainian partners and partners in the joint investigation team have all the necessary support to bring war criminals to justice. Thank you so much.
Thank you, dear Ladislav. And we are concluding our session. We started with Ukraine and concluding with Ukraine. It's my honor and privilege to pass the word to Minister of Foreign Affairs Dmytro Kuleba, because we are dealing with difficult legal issues on international level, which is impossible to sort out without the masterpiece of our diplomats. Dmytro, the floor is yours.
We are all diplomats, Andrei. But thank you, first of all, for bringing all of us together. I don't know, I will be very short. I don't know if Professor Philip Sands is in the room. He is the author of the East-West Street. It's an excellent account of Raphael Lemkin, Herr Schlauterpacht, and of course the city of Lviv. After these masterminds and this magnificent city, this city has been mentioned so many times today, I feel compelled to recommend you reading this book, and he's not paying me for this. It's just an excellent book. But on 28th of February, 4 days into the aggression, Philip Sands published an op-ed in Financial Times. And the idea of the op-ed was very simple. There must be a special tribunal to try Putin for the crime of aggression. And this is how it all started. And now when I look back of how far we have made it in just 1 year, it's incredible. It's incredible, and we all can be proud of what we have achieved. Everyone sitting on this panel, everyone sitting in this room, and everyone who has contributed. Last autumn, when we in the Foreign Ministry came up with the idea of setting up a core group for the establishment of the special tribunal, we could hardly find five countries ready to join. We have 29 now, and it's growing. And as Wopke mentioned, Guatemala was the first Latin America country to join. So we can be proud of ourselves, but the final leap is the most difficult one. And that final leap is ahead of us. And there are still tons of questions and foreign policy considerations and historical repercussions and future impact. There are tons of questions which require answers. But I'm 100% sure that if all of us will be guided by the need to serve justice and prevent impunity in finding answers to these questions, we will get everything done. We will have the special tribunal, we will have compensations, we will have ICC delivering sentences. Everything will work out perfectly. There's only one condition. Put everything aside. Focus on serving justice and preventing impunity. Thank you.
Thank you, my dear colleagues and friends. And here, the historical event, the first official meeting of the dialogue group. You are witness of it. And thank you, everyone, that we did it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, distinguished speakers. We are continuing, and we finally reached our opening session. And its topic, United for Justice, International Community's Response for Accountability.